But if you would like to, then we also love seeing your beautiful faces. So a few quick reminders. This is the final graduation call of OLS 5. We are delighted, absolutely delighted to have you here today. We're going to ask everyone to present for about up to 5 minutes as a team, what you've learned during OLS. Maybe your plans changed, maybe they didn't. We're going to ask people not to run over time too much because we have quite a few presentations today. But also tell us about your future plans. We'll be very excited to hear all of this. So Open Life Science, we have a code of conduct. This is just a little reminder. So if you're looking at the probably tiny text on my screen, haha, this is where the code of conduct is, openlifesci.org/code-of-conduct. And this effectively is us asking people to treat one another with the respect that you would like to receive when interacting with other people of the cohort or interacting on behalf of Open Life Science. So if at any point you either experience or witness something that you believe isn't in line with the code of conduct, then you can report this either by emailing team@openlifesci.org, which reaches the co-founders and Paz, or alternatively, you can email any of us individually if there's a reason that you might not want to reach out to the whole team. Oh, the only other thing I will ask, because we have the interpreters today, is try to speak clearly and try to not speak too fast, just so that they can keep up with everything. Is there anything that I need to add, Paz? Or Emmy, or... We're all good?
No, I think you cover... Should I be speaking in English or Spanish? Both, yeah. No, I think you cover everything. And okay. I was just thinking about, yeah, speaking slowly and clearly.
Okay. Yeah. Well, in that case, I think there's no other bits and pieces to talk about, and we can start kicking off. Paz, over to you to present these, to host the Spanish talks and manage maybe one question maximum, because we have a lot of talks to get through today.
Sí. Bueno, el primer proyecto del que vamos a saber más es...
The first project is Arpai. I am pronouncing it as the acronym in Spanish goes. We will have Sabrina, Veronica, Victoria, Federico, and Laura, who will be presenting the project, right? So without further ado, go ahead. Tell us about Arpai. Thank you, Paz. I will share screen. Let's see if it works. Fantastic. Perfect. The Arpai project is one of the projects that has been selected, of course, by, from 150 proposals co-financed by IGCR and by CEDA from Sweden, and it is a artificial intelligence and data science applied to electronic medical records and contribute to early detection epidemic outbreaks and preventive decision-making. It was a project presented by a consortium headed by SIETI, my organization, in which the Ministry of Science and Technology and the Ministry of Health of the Argentine Republic also participate, and is closing its second year for international financing. Throughout the story, 90 people participated in several lines of work. Some implemented to the electronic clinical record, the development of artificial intelligence and science data tools, and other cross-cutting activities. It is a project that has a research innovation dimension and an intervention and management dimension, we could say. It has a lot to do with the political decision makers. The AI and data science teams work in different sub-projects or preliminary projects, of course, predictive models, obviously, dashboards for decision-making processes, and other cross-cutting lines as the investigation of biases and the different projects responsible for the data we use, and of course the result of the project. Regarding the proposal, 5 people of the artificial intelligence and data science team joined with the expectation, of course, of impacting the project with practices of openness, of open science, right? Laura, please. Thank you, Vero. The OLS hoped to boost the opening of the project. We knew that OLS has the wealth of sharing experiences of other projects, the expertise of other organizations. So in OLS, we looked for a scenario really to identify tools and strengthen our skills. However, Arpai is a project where very sensitive health data is used, and this comes in conflict with openness of the data and the project. Another challenging axis is articulation of ARPAI with public management, and this internal conflict inherent to ARPAI sometimes delayed our expectations of openness. Sabrina, please. We identified 3 possible dimensions of openness: data, results, and participation in the project. In case of data, we did not move in that direction because it is sensitive data. And for that, we are currently developing an anonymization process, generating research data sets as an objective in itself. On the other hand, the results of the publications were already planned to be open access, right? Another type of information or results, such as political strategies, need to be agreed with the research and management consortium to be open, and this is not directly depending on us. Regarding participation in the project, we know as participants that it is not simple to be integrated. It is a major project with many different dimensions, and it's difficult to understand the context, the overall context, and what is necessary to access data information, which are the communication mechanisms and structures. So based on the recognition of this problem, during our participation in the OLS, we channeled our efforts to project a new onboarding oriented to the opening of ARPAI in its research and dimension perspectives to the rest of the interested community, with a view to continuing our work beyond the original financing that was the original fund. The objective we set was to build a body of instruments facilitating entry and participation in ARPAI as a permanent area of research and collective construction of information, with the purpose of taking advantage of the achieved skills in OLS and the previous experience in the Arpai projects. We were also interested in documenting in some way the exercise that we are beginning as we speak, starting in the OLS framework with the help of the whole community, keeping communication active with the OLS community. What did we find in OLS? OLS not only provided us tools, but an insight of the actual magnitude of the project we were embarking and how to be extrapolated in time to do it as we wanted to. OLS in that sense was an example in itself of the use of these creative tools and opening to the community. We also learned that opening processes need to be transparent, become hierarchical, and institutionally contemplated in order to be carried out successfully. It cannot be an individual proposal. It needs to be part of the structure of the project from the beginning and with its own budget, or at least time allocated for that, something to which our participation in OLS really contributed. We learned new ways of working, how to manage ourselves in different time zones, how to implement asynchronous and group work, how to deal with language barriers. In particular, it gave us the right environment to have a reflective process on the Arpai project in general, the line of tools in particular, and our contribution as a group to the whole network. learning about community training and a good onboarding as an initial tool will be a skill that we will be seeking to implement in a second stage of our PI continuity, but we take away for future projects as well. Okay, we would have liked to be able to have greater dedication in OLS proposals, participating more in community exchanges, being able to locate work queues within the framework of OLS, because this is not a job to be done. It is a process to go through. And also, we would have liked to contribute more to other projects, maybe to collaborate more with other teams. What did we love about OLS? We love the contribution of our mentor, Maya, her sensitivity to understand the context and diversities, which were not the best, and an effort, the effort that OLS has done to include us in our own language, assist us through the microgrants, and the generosity of other project stakeholders sharing their experiences, and the ease of making a lot of resources available so quickly and making our journey so much simpler. Thank you. If you have questions, we are open for questions. Thank you so much. Great, great, great. You can post the questions in the chat or in the, of course, notes. There's a question I have prepared, but let's see if somebody has put something in the chat. Some questions over there. The first question, as a team, is there anything that you would do differently if you would start the project all over again? What would you do different? And what about the onboarding plans? Could you give us some more information? I can answer in line with what Federico was saying. We would have liked to be better organized in order to have a better process. Sometimes we had to fulfill certain tasks, but sometimes we had to adapt them to the needs of our project. Regarding onboarding, we are imagining a set of instruments and devices to facilitate different participation modes in the project. A clear one, and having overcome all the obstacles regarding confidentiality and data access, we needed to be technically easier, but other things related with project governance, the capability of being a bit more transparent and opening to the future. It's a future that we imagine, not just a manual, something in writing, or the typical disclaimer that provides the necessary information, but other devices that could be more AV, audiovisual, providing access to the information. In OLS, you have such a lot of information, and we need tools to build rows which are more friendly, we could say. There is another question in the chat. Maybe we need short answers. How do you plan to work the anonymity of sensitive data? How do you plan to do the anonymity? That is for Sabrina, right? She's the head of the project, right? I will be very brief, and then we could continue with OLS Slack. We have a strategy regarding to data that are identified, and another part that we are reinforcing has to do with turning free text anonymous, that has to do with electronic clinical records. Something has been developed in other languages, not so much in Spanish, and it has to do with entity detection algorithms to turn them anonymous. So this is partial information, but we could continue talking about through the Slack. Very well then. So those who have also through the OLS Slack, we can continue. Okay. And this is the end of this first project. Okay.
Let's continue with the next. If you have any questions, be sure to write them out in notes or in the chat, and then you can continue your conversation. The next presentation is the project for, I'm going to say this word wrong, the term, I'm sure, so you'll correct me, but it's easier in Spanish. Well, open phytolith is the word, and Gabriela will be presenting. Carla, Javier, Abraham, Emma, Celine, Zachary, and Juanjo. I think Gabriela will be starting. Celi will be starting, and she's sharing screen first. Celi, welcome. Can you see? Thank you. I am Gabi Musabak and Celine Kerfat, and we are presenting the work carried out by the International Committee of Open Science of Phytolytic Science during training in OLS 5. We're doing it in Spanish to show the linguistic diversity of our research committee. We have 11 members, and then we come from all over the world. Our country has as its objective to promote the fair data and open data sharing, to exchange them in the open phytolytic community. And therefore, we want to share data. This is a first attempt to respect the interests of our community. Our effort is to make our initiatives transparent, to generate more consciousness within our community. Everyone can take part at whatever level they wish in the different initiatives. So what are the phytoliths? Phytoliths are microscopic silica bodies that are formed within living plants. And they form within cells, and they adopt, therefore, their shape. We can identify plants at different taxonomic stages using these phytoliths. They are very resistant also because they are formed by silica, and therefore they remained in the ground for a very, very long time. They are used to identify the presence of plants in current archaeological or paleoecological plants that existed, and they help us also to learn about groups of individuals from the past. This discipline has expanded very quickly in the last 10 to 20 years. There's new methods that have been developed as well as applications. A lot of this has been done in an isolated fashion, with each laboratory developing its own techniques. And therefore, today it's very difficult to bring together all the data in order to carry out collaborative investigations. The phytolith community has had an extensive trajectory in OLS. Emma was a mentor in OLS too, bringing her project on the evaluation of open science and in research of phytoliths, and working on establishing consciousness as well as starting out a working group. This working group came together in OLS3 to start to construct the infrastructure for the FAIR Phytolith project and to benefit from this training in open research. The project FAIR Phytoliths was therefore financed by EOSC Life at beginnings of 2021. And this team started to establish, therefore, the International Committee of Open Phytoliths, ICOPS. This committee became part of OLS 5 and started to construct the open community. We wanted to train the committee members, therefore, and we wanted to teach them also about open science. In the FAIR Phytoliths, therefore, group, we trained our committee, our community, and also researchers also, to have more communication between archaeologists, to create a repository, and also to add adequate licenses on their work, and also to work in a collaborative fashion to use version control in GitHub and to create a profile and a website that was simple. We also wanted to develop construction in the community and establish all the problems related to the exchange of knowledge so that all the practices of the project would be open ones. We also wanted to develop a plan and materials to initiate training in open science. Now we will hear Gabby, my co-worker. What we did, we achieved using training in OLS 5. We declared our view during our training, and then we prepared our motto, which is to be able to have open science at the world level between researchers in faculties. So we established our ideas first, planning versions of the GitHub, and then we also want to have better financing to compensate the amount of time that people spend on the project and to find some ways also to obtain other funds, travel, solution of some specific problems, etc. Some of our members understand the benefits of working on the project, but they cannot work on this while leaving their paid job. So how can we align our project with their particular work? We need surveys to know the local reality of the researchers. That's a question, and find out how they, and on the open committee, we also started with collective work. We established the guidelines for open publishing, and now we have a community to establish a place where all our resources and our findings are published, and the members of the committee give international conferences and presentations on the activities of our project. For example, the Frontiers in Archaeology event. Next. We also wrote up a guide about how to publish the FAIR principles together with the editors of Review of Paleobotany and Palynology for a special number on phytoliths in Asia. This guide will be useful for authors because it will be the first of its type in the framework of the FAIR principles. In the actions required, we include the ICP-N 2.0, which is our nomenclature code, and the complete description of methods and of data collection. And for recommended actions, we suggested that the article be published for open access, either gold or green. Next slide. We generated the website of our committee, ICOPS, to have greater visibility of our work. We presented our documents in a transparent fashion. It's work in construction, up to now in English, Spanish, and French. But our objective is also to extend it to other languages. Past projects are available freely, as well as the videos for the formation of the GitHub. And also there's a glossary of specific terminology on phytoliths. The website is designed so that research and phytoliths and anyone can comment on our work and can interact with us. Among the challenges we faced, well, we're only at the very beginning of our journey, so we need to convince our community that it's worthwhile to invest time in changing their current practice. We have to think how we can include all the researchers in terms of community initiatives, where and when to host meetings, what are the best tools, and in what language. Other matters are to formalize our register of collaborators, synchronize the team and its commitment with our roadmap, and also to consider the diversity of our community in the design of our program. Our plans in the future include, formation of the ICOPS committee and other OLS cohorts, or in other types of training, to have a repository for open phytolith community, to explore regional and global challenges of our community, which is advancing towards open science, and then the plan to make our community be committed, how to increase it, the plan for training of the community in GitHub using repository and other practices of open science, for example, videos on group or individual training. Next. We would like to thank especially our mentors, Malvika and Graciel, for their support and for sharing their ideas and their experience to develop our project. We express our gratitude to all the members of the ICOPS committee and of the Open Phytolith community. Thank you to the organizers of OLS5 and to all the participants. And happy birthday to Emma. Emma.
Okay.
Oh, it's Emma's birthday. We're thinking that perhaps we'll have to skip over the questions because we have a lot of projects and we have very, very little down. But please write them down in the Slack and in the notes of the community. So let us now continue with the next project, which is
the next project. We have Jose Luis, and Jose Luis will start formally, and he will tell us about his project. Jose Luis? Can you see my screen? Great. Hello, good afternoon. I will present the project. Our proposal is called, wait a minute, please. It's us, Jose, Danae, Andre, Cami, and Nelson, and we are submitting the project, training Latin American scientists community to create high-quality open journals with good editorial standards, in which our mentors were Alexander and Belen. Next slide, please. Okay, so we would tell who we are and why we are doing this initiative. We belong to the Universidad Estatal Mayor de San Simón, the city of Cochabamba, Bolivia. We study at the School of Medicine. Two of us are recent graduates. We belong to the Scientific Society of Students of the faculty, in which the organ of scientific dissemination is called Ciencia Médica, and we have actively participated as members of the editorial board since 2018 up to the present moment with different roles. Of course, the open access student journal doesn't receive financial support from the university to pay for the membership of services such as Crossref and the private server for the website. Of course, the committee organizes paid academic courses, and funds are totally allocated to supporting the journal. The journal Ciencia Médica, you see the logo, has used simple strategies for its distribution, such as social media, student professional groups from different universities at local and international level. Of course, regarding academic support, the Ciencia Médica Journal only has voluntary tutoring of professionals who agreed to collaborate, of course, at the request of members belonging to the committee, motivating by the desire of acquiring new knowledge in research and editorial management. And of course, we have the support of Gaceta Médica, which is the journal of the faculty, and the team has, of course, become interested and related to open science, open access, and double-blind peer review as well. And of course, what has really motivated to create this community. There was a lack of knowledge really regarding research, publication in our local academic environment. There is no access to information for the training of people who are really willing to become researchers or maybe editors of scientific journals. There's no environment in which the learner, the expert, the mentor, the mentee can relate, can exchange ideas, an environment where we can share the set of knowledge acquired. Of course, for example, the knowledge regarding the use of OGS, DOI, ORCID indexing, and therefore our purpose is to become intermediaries between the new editors and experts in the publishing world. Our goals and expectations in OLS were the following. So throughout the OLS program, we wanted to build a community of Spanish-speaking scientists who teach and learn to create high-quality open journals with good editorial standards, also obtaining tools helping us achieve our goals in order to facilitate access to editorial scientific education and, of course, meet experienced trainers supporting and guiding us in the area of research and publishing. Next, please. Our goals were met and our achievements is that we have learned to use different platforms such as GitHub, RStudio, and others, allowing to create our website. Likewise, we have created our own code of conduct that fosters scientific community that works in a respectful, responsible, transparent way. We have contacted experts, for example, Laura Asion, who guided us with her experience, something that was a little bit difficult because of different time zones, enabling us to work together. As we have already seen, we identified the problem, the non-existence of a relationship between experienced editors and new editors who want to start an online journal to contribute as a means of visibility of the international community in Latin America. Thanks to the OLS program, we learned how to develop many things. For example, developing the code of conduct, collaborative participation guidelines among the different topics, thanks to Laura, and also thanks to Frederick, who was an OLS colleague and who, of course, are experts in creating communities. And therefore, we have many following steps to follow, such as, because continuing with the following steps, first step, recruit expert editors and maybe novice or beginners through calls that will be distributed by social media, meet with experts who wish to support our project. Third, also meet expert editors of our local network proposing to start as collaborators of our project. And one of the most important steps to the future for our project to go is maybe launch a call for all possible collaborators who are interested and have experience in the editorial area. We have many interested participants, of course. Next, please. Sorry. So finally, we would like to underscore that we want to grow our project. Launching this call, we need new collaborators. All of you who are interested and have experience in editorial areas, management and creation of scientific journals from any area of knowledge, we want you to be part. We want to create a network of people really committed to science and, of course, journals, because something that is not published does not exist. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. As I mentioned, we're short of time, so we'll have to leave the questions for later, and we'll continue with the conversation on Slack. Excellent job. The project is so important, the one that you're carrying out, as I've told you. So I hope that it will be able to grow. And as was mentioned by the final presenter. So let's continue with the next project, which was the one given by Kevin. And he will joining us from Cameroon. Are you there? Are you connected, Kevin?
Yes, I'm here. Can you see my screen?
Yes, perfect.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Yeah, my name is Kevin. I'm not from Cameroon. I'm from Kenya. I'm based in Nairobi, Kenya. Yeah, so now let me take you through my presentation. So this is something that I've been working on. I've been working on developing a kit that would be very important, very sensitive, and can fit the setting of a point of care where malaria cases are so endemic, and where you find that the healthcare providers at those settings do not have enough training to use most of the sensitive tools, and also they also lack enough funding from the government and also from other agencies. So this work is supported. Early this year, I got a grant from Royal Society of Tropical Medicine, where I'm also a student ambassador. And this work is being conducting this work at Institute of Primate Research. And I'm also a visiting student to Gitaka Lab, which is also based in another Mount Kenya University. So I'm visiting that lab for gaining more experience, but also they're also helping me with their expertise. And also Jomo Kenyatta University, where I'm a postgraduate student. Now, malaria is one of the major global health problem. And actually it's estimated now that almost half of the world population is at risk of malaria infection. So we know prior to COVID, a lot of strategies were put in place, supported by WHOs and governments of different countries. And this, by 2019, the burden of malaria was reduced by 37%, which was a good thing. But when the COVID came, and when the pandemic struck now, these gains were a bit reduced, and we saw that the mortality rates increased, and because people are now focusing on COVID. But another important challenge now in malaria control is now, because if you look, the other aspect of control is detection, which inform prompt treatment. So if you detect malaria early enough, you'll be able to treat patient early enough. Also children under 5 years, and also pregnant mothers, you'll be able to, if you have a tool that is sensitive enough and will be able to detect it early enough, then you'll be able to give prompt treatment. But then, and close to 70% of all the detections that are done globally, 70% are done by rapid kits. And that rapid kits is targeting histidine-rich protein 2, which, according to several studies, the parasite now is deleting. We have several parasites that are in circulation that have that gene deleted. So the impact of this is that you'll have cases of false negative, and the patient present with the symptoms of malaria, but if you use the kit, the result turns out negative. So we prescribe other things, then the patient goes home and the case becomes worse. So as you are aware, we have several methods that are used for malaria detections, but the most important thing is now that we want to target the point of care where most of these microscopy, you don't have a microscopic tool who will now be able to give you a reliable detection. And also the kits also, as we have explained in the previous slide, is also not sensitive enough to give you reliable results. The molecular tests are highly sensitive, but they are very expensive. So most of the clinics or most of the point of care settings cannot afford them. So our approach was now to come up. So this is what we ask ourselves. Now we know that the molecular method are the most sensitive enough. So how can we now translate the molecular methods to see the point of care? And one of the methods that we focused on was loop-mediated isothermal amplification. So because it is a robust, it's also sensitive enough, and also it doesn't require a lot of equipment. So it's something that can be modified to suit the point of care and can be able to give you a very sensitive detection within a shorter time, actually within 30 minutes. That is also an equivalent time that you will use, that equivalent time that a microscopic will take, and also most of the kit within 25 minutes. So we focused on that. But then now, achieving this now required a lot of collaborations, because one, when you are developing something that suits that place, you have also to have a knowledge of what is taking place at the point of care. So we had now to look for the collaboration, talk to people who have got the knowledge of the point of care, because we didn't want to make something and then without incorporating the community at the point of care. So that was a bit challenging now, bringing people on board, and that could help in that. Now, this is the method that we are using. It's a bit, if you look at it here, it look a bit complex, but to break it down in a simple thing is that just as the PCR, it's a method that incorporates so many primers, but at the end of it, if you use, we have this on my right, we have the detectors method. The one in pink is when you use gel electrophoresis. You can also, in the middle, you can also use a real-time turbidimeter, but also you can also colorimetric method, use the dyes to give you the results. But all these results required a setting of a well-established lab, which is not suiting the point of care. So we wanted to move away from this to now something like this. Now on the far right, you could see you have just a tube with a green color. So we wanted something that, so we are making something that now you will have all the reagent that you need dried in that tube, because most of these settings you don't have the cold chain. So all these reagent are preserved and can be stored at room temperature. And now the samples that you add, you only take the blood from the patient, you add a buffer to that blood, you hemolyze that blood, add it to the tube, add water, reconstitute, incubate, and then you have something that you can see with your eyes. So that is something that anyone without proper training on molecular technique can use at the point of care. Yeah, so now we were looking for collaborations, and and also a better way of executing this work. And OLS was one of the places that I turned to maybe learn more on how to plan, execute projects like this, and how to bring people on board, how to work openly with people, and most importantly, that the knowledge that I've gained from the OLS now, how can I then that also benefit others with that knowledge, not in the context of my work, but now in the context of also the upcoming young students who are also coming to our labs for training. How do you nurture them? How do you sensitize them on the open science, the benefit of the open science earlier now, so that when they grow in their career now, they will carry it along. And also, I've also learned, importantly, on the use of GitHub. I mean, it's a very important tool, a very powerful tool for planning, execution, and also you can also use it to do a lot of collaboration with people. That's something that I didn't have, and coming to OLS has now opened my ears, and now I think going forward now, I now work better. Yes.
Calvin, thank you so much. It's great that we have your contact details there.
Yes.
Okay, I'll ask you if we can share that in the pad as well. And we need to move on quite quickly because we only have 10 minutes left for the other presentations. So I'll ask you all, the ones that come now, to be super faster than you thought maybe. You can always find another way of keep this talk going. Okay, so now please, so we have Ashintia, are you ready?
Yes, I am. I thought there was someone else before me. Apologies. Give me a second.
No worries. If you want, I can ask someone else to go in front of you if you prefer.
No, that's perfectly fine.
Okay.
Can you see my slides?
Yes, perfect.
Great. So I'm going to give you a quick overview of my OLS5 project. The title that you see here is slightly different from what it's been advertised as, but I'm going to tell you a bit about building a community through collaborative writing, which is maybe not something that all of us do on a regular basis. So my name is Achintya Rao, and I'm community manager for the AI for Science and Government Research Program at the Alan Turing Institute. And my OLS project is to work on community authored white papers from the Turing's AI for Science and Government Research Program. Now, you must be wondering, what on earth is this about? So let me first start out by telling you what the AI for Science and Government program is. So this is a 5-year funded program at the Alan Turing Institute. It received quite a large amount of money for advancing the role of AI in a variety of sciences, in engineering, in healthcare, in environmental research, and in public policy and government issues. And across these different themes, we have sort of grouped a whole bunch of projects that have emerged in 3 areas. One of which is shocks and resilience, which you can think of as sort of economic shocks, societal shocks, health shocks that emerge, things like COVID. We have another area which is devoted to what is known as ecosystem of digital twins, and digital twins they're kind of like not exactly simulations because they're getting real-time data from a physical object. We can chat about that later if you want. And the third area is on environment and sustainability. And what we're trying to do is to capture the knowledge that has been generated over the course of sort of 4.5 years of projects in these spaces, and help shape the direction of future research, not just within the UK, but beyond as well. And maybe I can give you like a quick overview of, as I see it, what the differences are between research papers and white papers, which is what we're trying to do. So research papers, as you can imagine, are generally published in journals. They're usually self-contained documents. They primarily target your sort of scientific research peers, and you typically communicate insight, some sort of new knowledge, something that you have that you have done that has brought some new knowledge into the world. On the other hand, white papers are generally published as bespoke booklets, usually accompanied by some additional material in audiovisual form. You primarily target people who are in a position to influence decisions around research and funding. You target policymakers, and rather than communicating research insight, you communicate the impact that you're hoping your work is going to have. So within the context of OLS, this project's vision is, you must be wondering, what does this have to do with open science, right? So I'll take you through this very quickly. The first aspect, the first element of our vision is to showcase the research insights from this program. It's also to then demonstrate and amplify the real world impact of ESG research as a whole. And here's where the openness kicks in. Through this process of producing these documents, we're hoping to embed practices of openness and reproducibility in the authoring process and engage the wider ESG community. So all of the researchers who are part of this program. Now, how have we been doing it within the ESG community? As Kevin had just mentioned, GitHub is an extremely powerful tool that you can use not just for storing source code, which is what developers use it for, but you can also use it for a lot of project planning. So we've been using this extensively. You can see myself and Malvika have created a whole bunch of issues over here. And the way in which we're using GitHub is to use it as just an ideas dump. So if you have any idea, if you have any thought that you think, oh, I should come back to this at some point, you just add it over there and then come back to your issues at another point to triage them. We're using them also to look at specific goals and outputs that we want to achieve over the course of the project. We're also using the discussions feature, although I will admit not as much as I would like, but that's something I'm working on as well. So GitHub also has a discussions feature, which is different from issues. And we're also using the project board to sort of create to use the more advanced project management features that are available. And with regards to the project itself of producing these documents, we are authoring these on Overleaf, which is an open source tool that you can use for authoring documents collaboratively. People generally use it with LaTeX, but we're using just plain Markdown files, an assortment of Markdown files that all build together a final version of the document. And what we're doing with using Overleaf is not to focus on the formatting, because ultimately the documents will be produced by our communications team. We're just focusing on content. And you can see that in this document that it's not just me who's been working on this. We've received comments and edits and content from various members of our community. So everyone can edit this document simultaneously. We have a full history of the document. We can go back and respond to comments, etc. And while these various contributors are working on this document, they don't have to, we sort of advise them not to focus on sentences and creating complex arguments, just to put in their ideas of what they think the document should be communicating. And while you're wondering why this is Overleaf and why aren't we using some other tool, the answer is that we are forbidden from using something like a Google Docs, and there are limitations with how you can share from SharePoint to external partners, etc. So something that I think is very important for us to acknowledge, not just within OLS, but more widely within the open science community, is we are adopting the all contributors model to the white papers. Everyone who's made any kind of intellectual contribution to the document, whether it's making a minor edit or it's suggesting entire sections that need to be added, everyone gets authorship on the white paper, and we will also subsequently acknowledge the different roles that people have played in producing the document. And we did this by engaging researchers at different levels in different ways. So early on, we engaged the senior researchers and the project leads to identify the kind of broad, big messaging that they thought we should be putting forward, what are the projects they wanted to focus on. And then we ended up engaging the postdocs a bit more, who had not just more time, but also a different kind of desire to share what they're working on and reflect on the processes that they were engaged with. And we have at the Alan Turing Institute a fairly unique role, I think, which is that of the research application managers, who tend to generally work with the researchers on taking the research outputs outside of academia, try and work with industry, external partners, etc. And they're collaborating with us to build sort of case studies around these various projects. So we're engaging various kinds of members of the wider ESG community. And very quickly, I'm going to take you through some of the key lessons that I have learned over the course of the OLS 5 program. One of them, which is I think very important for us all to reflect on, is that community means different things in different contexts. In the case of our community, it was not something that was grown organically from the ground up, but was something that existed as part of a bigger, wider program. And the exercise that we've all done on personas, again, because this was an existing group of people who are all working on these research projects, it was very helpful for me to reflect on personas, not in terms of thinking about who else we can bring in, because that's a fairly limited scope. We can't really bring in other people unless they apply for the funding and the grants, etc. But to think about who's already a part of the community and what different roles do they have, what different contributions can they make, what different research are they involved with, and try and understand where there's interplay between the different kinds of people who are working at a research institution. So to sort of using those personas to understand who can contribute to this process and how can they contribute to it. And we also, something that Yo has suggested and Yo has demonstrated, who was my mentor, we'll come to that in a second, was the use of co-working time, to just spend some time in a shared space, something that the Turing Way has been doing for many years, something that OLS has been doing for a while as well. You should just block out some time to focus on doing something, but in a collaborative space, because many of us are working from home. We don't really have the luxury of going into an office and spending time with our colleagues. And what we're doing right now, as I mentioned, we have 3 areas that we're trying to cover as part of these white papers. So each of them will have its standalone white paper. I'm working on the first of these 3. And a lot of these lessons that we have learned along the way, the process of producing them, we're going to be applying them to the remaining 2. And finally, I just want to thank my mentor, Yo, for a lot of very useful calls, one-on-one calls, where she gave me a lot of advice, which is mostly the lessons that I've learned over there that you can see. I would like to thank everyone within the OLS community for having left comments below my issue and giving me some advice on thinking about my vision. To everyone who is engaged with our cohort calls and catch-up calls to share all of the incredible work you're doing, and finally to my colleagues at the Alan Turing Institute. Thank you.
Fantástico, muchas gracias a Cintia.
Muchísimas gracias.
Perfecto, bueno, un comentario
Great,
importante.
thank you so much, Achinda. An important thing we didn't mention at the beginning, now we have an extra 30 minutes, 29 minutes more. I hope you can stay, everyone who presented, and maybe we can have an open Q&A session at the end, because there's lots of questions and we have been able to extend the call an extra 30 minutes. So if you're there and you're available, we have our next speaker. Our next speaker is Stefan.
Yes.
Stefan, there you are. Yes, thank you.
Yes, I will just share the screen if possible. Can everyone see the screen and hear me well, please? Okay. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Stefan Fadanka, and I'm here today with Elise Javsia to present you our projects as part of this OLS 5 graduation. So happy to be here. So we're working on the project called Improved Diagnostics of Cancer through Artificial Intelligence and Digital Pathology. And our mentor was Sebastian Ayala Ruano. So just a bit of background, we were trying to tackle really the problem of diagnostics of cancer, because cancer is rapidly growing in Africa, and it's even forecasted to rise faster again in Africa as compared to other countries or part of the world. So we just have some fact like 70% of deaths occur in low and middle income countries, and then we have a great clear shortages of clinicians and pathologists, the people who are able to do the diagnostics, and it's not really helping the problem. And another thing is that we don't have data to really support or even drive the policies at the local level to fight against the cancer. So added to that, we have inaccessible diagnostic and treatment that are very common for the previous reason. Also lack of correct and timely diagnosis. So at times we have doubt between malignancy and yes, and then you have late stage presentation of cases. So basically what we're really trying to come up with is an improved diagnostic of the cancer using a combination of artificial intelligence, algorithm software, and also microscopy, because we had previous track of record of projects using telepathologies, like people working using microscopy and then contacted the research group abroad to help with the diagnostic. So now we thought of including the artificial intelligence machine learning aspect to be able to ease that process. So really we had some particular feature for our projects right from the beginning. So we wanted the project to be open source, like since we've been involved in open source contribution in project in the past. So automatically it was the right kind of projects we wanted. Also, we wanted a reliable and fast diagnostic. That's why we thought about combining artificial intelligence and microscopy. And also, since there's a lack of data, we wanted the solution we were providing to generate the data as well as using available data. So those are the design feature we had right from the beginning. And that's why OLS was, I mean, the right platform for us, talking about the open source, how to manage and handle the project. So that's how we started working. So I'll just take some minutes to talk about our projects and vision, and including also future orientation of the project. So what was done really was already we have the project documentation on GitHub, like having all the various documents needed. You can just have a look. And then we also have started working on the development of the algorithm to develop the diagnostic. What is currently ongoing is actually to have a project website, a kind of repository for interaction with the community, which we also try to build, because we need people to help assisting and growing the development of the projects, and also users, since it's a diagnostic tool that we are aiming for at the end. Another important thing for us is to share our experience through this particular participation to OLS. So we are currently writing a blog post that will be posted hopefully on the OLS website. About next steps, we discussed during the development of the projects to create our own kind of data set using data available locally. It would be interesting to have that as an added value. Also, to use whatever solution, the software that we are proposing in real life setting, like contact research group, and having them use the diagnostic tool and gather feedback. And then obviously we need to keep training the algorithm to have it more robust and more effective. And finally, I think the idea is to replicate the model to tackle other diseases or different kind of cancer, for example. So maybe I will just give the floor to Elise, who is also on the floor on the call, to talk more about the software side quickly. Thank you. Elise, can you hear me? Hi, Elise, can you hear me?
Yes, Stefan. So,
Yes.
yes, I'm hearing you. Hello?
Yes, you can go ahead.
Okay, please move to the next slide. So for the technical part of the project, as Stefan mentioned earlier, we are lacking data. So the data available is very small, and our database is under construction. And the deep learning technique that was advised by our mentor was to use transfer learning. And as we know, transfer learning is there to help us tackle the difficulty of less data. And with transfer learning, we start using pre-trained models, and then we create our own models. We create with our own data, we start training our model and then contextualize it to our problems in Cameroon. That's the methodology we are trying to use to implement in the software so as to diagnose breast cancer in Cameroon. Thank you, Stefan.
Thank you, Elise. So I'll just continue the presentation. So talking more about what I was experienced with Open Life Science. So it was, I think, an amazing opportunity and experience to learn more about open source project management. So I'm just amazed by all the tools and the kind of structured way of handling projects in general and open source projects in particular. So everything, the agile development plan, mountain of engagement. So we had to pass through all these steps, and it was so instructive for us. There's a lot of documentation and resources. I also enjoy learning more, implementing project licensing, and also improve my skill on Git and GitHub, particularly the README file. So it was so interesting to learn that just with that README file, you can have a lot of attraction and also engage more people. Also, the contribution code of conduct, it was so important to implement just like in your contribution statement, just how you frame it will determine the amount of people who can be interested in your project. So it was so interesting. So just I have this sentence like OLS is an amazing showcase of how open science could be done, if not should be done. So yes, so and all it was also a great networking and live collaborations. On the picture we just see Gemma, who visited Cameroon recently as part of ESILA. She's also an open life science mentee. Also, I will just mention briefly the challenges. Like for us, for example, being in Cameroon, we had a lot of issue coordinating with our supervisor, also other team members. So I think the time zone difference was kind of an issue for us, but it was solved thanks to the flexible time slot for the OLS program, and also the flexibility of our mentor, who really did a great job to assist us. Logistic issues, so we're always worried about stable internet, no electricity. So thanks to the micro grants attributed by the Open License program, it was so helpful for us to be able to be active in the participation. And also for people who were not really familiar with coding and everything that has to do with programming, I think the ability to use a flexible tool, for example, for the reporting, we had the choice between HackMG or even just the Google Doc. So it was so important to include as much as people as possible. So I think I will conclude with thank you everyone, in particular the Open Life Science organizer for the opportunity and patience. And also our mentor, Sebastian, I'm so grateful for all the advice. The entire OLS community, the projects, other mentee, it was so nice. And more importantly, the experts who share a lot of knowledge. I've learned a lot. And yeah, my co-workers. So yeah, I'll just stop here for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stefane and Elise. So now we're gonna have Umar and then Malvika and then Gareth. That's the order just for the interpreter. Sorry, I made a mistake before. That was totally me trying to trust my memory instead of the written document. Okay, go ahead, Umar, if you are there.
Umar, you're on mute. I don't know if you're talking.
Hello, everyone. Hello, can you hear me? Oh my God.
Yes, we can hear you well.
Okay, impressive. Hello, everyone.
Umar, you're on mute again. I don't know how it happened.
Am I mute again?
Now you're good.
Okay, impressive. Hello, everyone. My name is Omar. I'm currently based in Nigeria, affiliated with Bauchi State University and Molecular Genetics Laboratory in Abubakar Tafawa University, Bauchi. I'm here to share with you my project on Offline Library of Science, being mentored by Mal Beaker and Anjo, sorry. And just to tell you a little bit of the idea how I came about the Offline Library of Science, actually, I realized all or number of our institutions that have academic journals and even land society journals in Nigeria, they are not actually indexed in most of the indexing database, and you cannot even find your articles online if you search them, if you publish within the local journals that we have. So I realized most of them, because of lack of funding, they have inability to actually publish their work in the top ranking journals because of the funding. The governments are not supporting paying to high ranking journals to get your work published. So I came up with this idea of developing Offline Library of Science to actually develop a single platforms where we can have all the journals, local journals, particularly the land society journals and any journals that is affiliated with an institutions to be indexed or to be published. So a Open Library of Science can be a kind of a company in a way, but non-for-profit organizations that can be deriving maybe subsidy from subscribers from the institutions and sometimes maybe from the research organizations, from the research organizations like PET funds, that is tertiary education trust funds that we have. That is the only organizations we have in Nigeria or agency that actually funds academics, research, and so forth. So my main visions for this project is aiming at establishing that platforms of open access that will allow our local scientists to publish their Nigerian academic journals in a way that it can increase the discoverability of our own national research output in the global community. The benefits for this, particularly to the libraries, is that they don't have to subscribe to the expensive journals because although it's not all institutions that subscribe, that have subscriptions models for journals across the world, but some of the top institutions in Nigeria, they do have, but mostly during accreditations of MSc and PhD courses, then that is when they start subscribing. And the money they spend there is huge. And at the end of the day, there is nothing they can do again about it. So I thought of these models may help in a way that the institutions will benefit. They don't have to spend much money to get those articles and to collaborate or to have access to their to local researches that we have in Nigeria. To the researchers himself, it will help him that the articles now being online, especially it will avoid publishing his articles to the predatory journals and so forth, because there's so many researchers, even professors in Nigeria, really they find it difficult to identify which one is original journals that is following COPE, Committee of Publication Ethics Policy, and so forth. They end up publishing their work in a wrong journal. So, but I believe with Open Library of Science, we'll be able to make sure we follow all the standards policy governed by the Committee of Publication Ethics to ensure our local journals are indexed there and we are publishing them in the right way so that globally it can be visible to everyone and they can have access to their work. So how the models we intend to do is basically through how we intend to sustain this project is basically through this tertiary education trust funds, being that is the only agency by the federal government that actually funds the institutions. All the federal institutions, including state institutions, is funded by these organizations. So I'm hoping this TED fund will actually fund these projects in a way that we can have it sustainable. And another way, alternatively, we can have LPS that is a kind of partnership subsidy so that we can partner with all those institutions and then we can be taxing them small amounts that can maintain the platforms so that their existing journals can be accessible by the global community. So this is basically the systems. If you see, this is the current systems where most of these libraries actually subscribe in huge dollar amounts, and at the end, most of the students, they don't have access to it. And they have to pay $35 and so forth, and really even academics in Nigeria, they are paid lowly, so it's really hard for them to get those papers from those online platforms. So how we intend to solve these problems is actually following this. We have the library that will actually subscribe with small amounts of money, and they can have access to all those scientific articles within Nigeria, especially those journals that are affiliated with the institutions. So how the journals can get involved into this open library of science is basically we specifically have a criteria. If the journals want to maybe be part of us, we want it to be a peer-reviewed journals and academic journals based in either Nigeria or even abroad, but have been established for at least 5 years. And they are currently funded through subscription models and are based in sciences specifically. And have an international collaboration. That is the only way we can have access and say, yeah, we access this journal, and then the journal can be able to, we can be able to collaborate with the journals, and we start publishing the journals. To end my talk is just, I would like to actually appreciate the Open Life Science for the mentorships I had, particularly my two mentors, Malbika and Yo. I really appreciate the kind of support you provided during these periods of my training in Open Life Science. I have learned a lot. I can say I learned so many things in a way how you can organize your project, especially in the GitHub, and even how you can even use the GitHub to even host a website, a dynamic or static website for your project, and how you can even include some collaborators, how you can even search for potential funders and potential collaborators. Like I could remember when she usually share some of those links, and even Malbika also supported me on this so much. Moreover, I would like to also thank the BioRTC. So it's a research center that is currently opened in Yobe State University here in Nigeria, which I'm currently based now. We actually come to open the center, which Vax actually requested me if I can share more about what Biomedical Research Training Center are. It's actually a new established center in Yobe State University College of Medicine. We are currently training some scientists, local scientists here to learn about Python programs, R programs, and open science, as well as preprinting. We are currently doing it. We will spend here, and the next 2 weeks we'll be here. And I would also like to thank African Archive, because I have been part of them. Actually, I learned most of all this open science of a thing from them, because I am currently the moderator for articles that comes into the preprint, the African preprint. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Umar. Fantastic. Make sure you get in touch with Jose Luis, or you both get in touch. Anyways, next one, please. That is, I don't want to make another mistake. So that should be Malvika, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, Malvika.
Thanks, Paz. I'm gonna make Omar stop his screen and share mine. All right, thank you so much. If you are surprised, I was a mentee in OLS 5 and have gone through the program myself. I'm Malvika Sharan, and I'm presenting some notes from our work in OLS 5 in the project exploring governance in open science community projects. My colleague Anne-Lee Steele, who is also co-lead of this project, is not here today, but is an equal contributor of this project. First, I want to describe what governance means. Governance in simple terms means that we have a structure to help identify and create accountability for who makes decision and how, who gets to participate and how, who is responsible to address risk and challenges that appears in a project or organization, again, and how, who controls and protects the outcome. So there's a lot of dynamic around power and hierarchy, which is something that we also experience in open projects. Open governance is a system for open, inclusive, and equitable management. And when we talk about management of people, project, organization, or communities. It gives structure and process for transparent decision-making, providing clear direction, support, and accountability for objectives that are prioritized and achieved to benefit all members. It's a bit of too much word, but you need to focus on that a good governance allows people to make decisions that are benefiting all members and not just one select group. Most open science projects are emergent, meaning that there is always something new appearing in the community. It is, however, very reactive, meaning people jump from idea to idea, may not always think about what they are doing and why, who will maintain that work and who will take it forward and so on. We want to provide structure. If it's done too much, it may feel restrictive. Therefore, we are looking for a balance in open science where all emergent idea can fit into a bigger picture, which means everyone transparently shares what they are working on, how people can get involved, and how they can exchange idea and resources. This project for exploring governance in open science is something that I've been thinking about in the context of open life science and the Turing Way with my project members, but we just did not have time to put aside and work on it. As both of these communities are growing, it becomes urgent for us to create structured opportunity to bring diverse members from our community in decision-making positions. Often that means giving names to the important work that people are already doing and connect them with the overall goal of the project. Thanks goes to Anne-Lee Steele, who started in OLS at the same time she started her job in my team. And I threw her in the deep end where while getting to know the community, she was also trying to learn about what decision-making process exists and how we can provide more structure while maintaining a space for creativity and emergence. Emma Karoon and Gracieli Hikino, both are very kindly here, are my mentors who provided a space to have really enjoyable and insightful conversation to carry on with our work. But most importantly, they showed up, they created accountability and really helped us go forward. We started with the basic understanding that governance will look different in the community based on the goals and project. Our aim in open community should be to increase impact of participant on decision making. So I won't go in detail, but think about it could be as simple as informing the community what you're doing. Consulting means that you go and ask for idea. Involving means that you actually allow conversation. Collaboration would mean that you bring them together to build something together. And empowerment means trust them, let them do what they can do. So our aim should be that we move a bit more towards empowerment as much as possible. You can think of different types of decision making in the form of how mature the community is. Like, is it hierarchical? It is emergent? Is it community led, or is it network? So are people feeling empowered enough to lead their own project? So quickly, to give us where we are, we managed to do short-term goals. Our short-term goal was to collect all the information we need to go forward, map different resources and community that we wanted to learn from, conduct some community interviews, and build some theoretical framework from existing governance models. The ongoing work is, we had our first core member meeting. We have also started to build centralized information about working groups that could exist in the Turing way. So this work is actually being prototyped in Turing way because Anne is community manager in that. We are also collecting case studies and examples from different communities. So if you are one of the community who's really proud of their governance or don't know where to start, please reach out to us. And we are also doing literature review and model development. The long-term goal is that we want to actually engage our community members in taking this governance model and apply them in their own communities, engage any community member who's interested in generalizing the model, and hopefully suggest that for Open Life Science and Metadocencia, who we had a nice conversation with recently. So just want to acknowledge Anne-Lee Steele for again daring to work in open from day one, our mentor Emma and Gracieli, our lovely Open Life Science community, my team member Yo, Bernice, Emmy, and Paz. I couldn't be happier. And I have to say thank you all for being with us in the program. I learned how difficult it is sometimes to carry on with doing everything.
Thank you, Malvika. Fantastic. Well, I have to be honest, I need to watch this all over again because I need to listen carefully. Okay, Gareth, are you there or not? Will you present?
Hello, yes.
Okay.
So I'll just share my screen. Not that one. There we go. Okay, so can you hear me? Cool. So, excellent. So my name is Garris Jones. I work on the OpenGHG project, which is a platform for greenhouse gas data analysis. I'm based in Bristol. I work at the University of Bristol as a research software engineer. So I think, so I've recycled a couple of these slides and I apologize for the very natty animations, but I think everyone will appreciate them. So because everyone likes funky animations, but yes, sorry. So I think the spin and swipe, we're going to get a good selection of them. So the OpenGHG platform brings in data from lots of different sensor networks across so the UK, North America, Asia, quite a few different sensor networks. So this is an example of one of the sensor networks, which is based in the UK. So lots of different data comes in, and it's often stored in lots of different formats, and it's quite difficult to sort of interpret things. Sharing is things like uploading a zip to Dropbox, so it's not massively open. So we started as a prototype study, which is called HUGS, so the Hub for UK Greenhouse Gas Data Science, and we then got funding for a follow-on study for OpenGHG, which is so expanding into a cloud-based greenhouse gas data platform. So you're going to click for me, go on. Yeah, so we've done some work. We did some work for COP26, which was building a data dashboard. And so this was a sensor network across Glasgow. So there were a few sensor networks and with different sort of levels of sensors. And we built a data platform, which was on GitHub. All the code's on GitHub. It was just a JavaScript framework that we used. Everything's processed in the cloud. Everything's up on the dashboard, and all the data is available on GitHub, and with an open license. So that's all there and freely accessible. So anyone can have take a look at that. And so this is just a screenshot of, well, a little quick video of data dashboard. So I can actually show you that instead of giving you a little video. So it's just there. You can just select the sites and have a look around and have a look at the data. Some of it's quite old now because this was done for COP a while ago. So this was just trying to do outreach for either scientists that work in the greenhouse gas community, but also for the public. We tried to sort of position it to a level where, you know, hopefully anyone could come onto the website and get something from it. So we tried to have an FAQ, different explainers, that type of thing, to explain, you know, why the scientists do the job they do. And so yeah, I've taken part in, is this gonna let me go? Taking part in OLS5, and I want to thank you everyone that's been part of it. It's been really, really good. It's been really interesting, and it's taught me like an awful lot actually about things like accessibility. So previously I've just worked under my PhD, just did programming and got the job as a research software engineer, but we're not really taught that much about, you know, putting your code out there and making it accessible to people and the sort of ways to increase accessibility to projects. So things like GitHub issue templates, things like that, little things that make the sort of the barrier to people joining your project and submitting issues and things much lower. And I've also been building things like accessible video tutorials and text-based tutorials for different people to be able to get them to use the platform, or hopefully. We also started working on like a workshop program, so I think that'd be quite a good way of getting people to up to speed on using the platform. I'd also like to thank my mentor Michael Addy. Sorry, Michael Addy, which is really good. It was really nice having chats with him. Yeah, so what's next for the project? I think more tutorials. So I get to record videos and hear my own voice, which is awful. Getting users onto the OpenGHG Hub. So if anyone would like to go to hub.openghg.org, at the moment there is a very simple Jupyter Hub interface. If everyone's familiar with Jupyter Hub, you can visit our website, www.openghg.org, and there's a link there you can click to sign up for an account. So at the moment we're just using a GitHub account sort of access list, which is very simple, but will hopefully be improved and slightly more professional in the future. We're also going to be hopefully holding workshops for people in the greenhouse gas community. So there'll probably be online workshops for anybody who'd like to come. And we're also moving on to, there's a service in the UK called Jasmine, which is a computer cluster which offers hosting and services to a Research Council funded projects, and yeah, inviting people to contribute to the platform. So yeah, that's me, and I'd just like to thank everyone, all the OLS team and everyone that's been part of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. We have 2 minutes left. Yo, do you want to say something?
Well, technically we have 7 minutes over, but
7? Then I have the wrong time in my computer.
Okay. So folks, thank you everyone who has hung around. It has been a mega session. I'm just going to do a few quick thank yous. So first of all, thank you, Amit Sang, for being the silent person in the background with 3 computers making this go. Oh my God. Like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you, Paz, for being our bilingual, amazing host for this call. It could not have gone better. I am astonished and overjoyed.
Except that I speak in English when I'm supposed to speak in Spanish. Except from that, it won't happen again.
And finally, every single person on YouTube, we've been getting comments in English, in Spanish, we've been getting emojis, every person who's on Zoom, everyone who prepared your presentation and sent it early and sent transcripts. Oh my God, I have never seen such an incredible effort by so many people to make this bilingual event work. And I was terrified, and it has been perfect. So thank you. And as Emmy says, thank you to Anna and to Celia, our incredible interpreters. I did not know that in real time you could translate science. Oh my God! This has been really incredible, and I've been so proud to watch every single thing that has happened today. I need to go and have a big nap and a big drink of cold water because it is so hot, and this has been a long event. I love you so much. Stay awesome. And wow, oh, photo, don't forget the photo. If you don't mind, your face, we're going to do a group photo. Get your funky like whoos on, look excited, look happy, and or you don't have to. This is not a requirement, this is only if you want it. But in 3, 2, 1, do your funky faces. Okay, I'm going to post that in Slack. We are going to go and have a little nap now. I love you all. Don't be strangers. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Ciao.